Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for another week of Remixing the Narrative. I'm so excited because today's topic, as you can see, is the power of words. And as you know, on this platform, it's all about just really creating spaces for people to share their gifts, the things they're doing in the community, and really the tagline of Remixing the Narrative, how we can change our story and be able to be an impact to the community. So I'm super excited about our conversation today and our guest for today. And I just want us to jump right in. So before we get started, as you know, if you have questions as we're talking or comments in relation to what we're saying, put them in the comments and I will display them on the screen. But this really is going to be an opportunity for you to get to know Mr. Carmichael Lewis. So before we dive into his writings and all like the whole reason why I chose the title, The Power of Words, we're going to first, as I believe, before we get into the stories he's written, talk about his own story. So we're going to start with his background. So if you could just kind of tune in. Again, like I said, if you have any questions or comments, put them in the comments. But I'm gonna give it over to Carmichael. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about who you are.
First of all, thank you for having me.
Yes,
Again,
definitely.
my name is Carmichael Lewis. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. I'm just like a ordinary African American male growing up in Chicago. Uh, Nothing fancy about my lifestyle. However, I went through challenges. I grew up. I went to the Esmond School, which was my elementary school. I went to Morgan Park. From there, I went to Daly College. It's a community college. Then from there, I went to Chicago State, and then I went to Calumet College of St. Joseph, where I got my master's. And it may seem like I was on the up and up. I'm doing the right things to be successful, but those came with obstacles and challenges. When I was in grammar school, I failed the sixth grade. In high school, I had a 1.7 GPA. In college, I failed English 3 times, but I kind of laugh about it now because I failed 3 times, but I became a writer.
Right.
So with pain comes a little bit of pleasure, and my pleasure is writing books and giving back to young people. I'm a Chicago police officer. That's my full-time job, and I say my work is giving back to young people, writing these books.
Awesome. And so I think as we dive deeper into these questions, more of your story and what inspired, because a lot of what I've noticed, especially when it comes to authors that I've met, is a little bit, if not their whole piece of them is in their books, but part of their story is a part of their writings. And so my first question is just like, what inspired you to write each of the books that you've written? Because they're uniquely connected, but also a little different. So whatever one you want to start with, I would love to just know what's the story behind the writings.
Okay, we can start with my first book. It's called Shadows of the Past.
Okay.
Shadow of the Past was very different. It talked about basically grow through what you go through, about leaving the past behind. As I got older and older in life, I used to always contemplate the past. And it's kind of like, man, why my past keep hunting me? Why my shadows keep following me? How do I get rid of that? And I just started journaling. Next thing you know, I had a whole journal. I had a whole book. And so once I read it, I realized like, wow, my own book made me think about, wow, I changed my own life. So I'm thinking like, wow, maybe my story could change someone else's. So I just decided to put it on paper and hopefully share it with someone else. Hopefully they leave inspired and encouraged after reading those books.
So when you say your path to greatness, what could be, for example, one of those shadows that you feel like led you to where you are today? Or one of those things that was maybe haunting you that you were able to kind of reflect on by writing this book?
I'm gonna say failure. Fell in the sixth grade. You're 13 years old. You just hit teenage years. You think you made it because you became that teenager, and next thing you fail. So it's almost like, wow, am I going to be a failure in life? Am I really going to fail? So that always used to haunt me, and watching all my classmates get ahead, and I'm still back there with the underclassmen now. Yeah. So that kind of haunted me, but I had to put everything in the past and keep growing from it.
That's huge. I'm a teacher, and so I know that for my students I've had students because I teach freshmen who've had to repeat their freshman year, or maybe before coming to high school, they had maybe some obstacles in elementary school. And I think it is important for children and even us as adults to realize that our past maybe hiccups or things that maybe took us off our original course doesn't have to define our end of our story, right?
Exactly.
So I have many kids that in elementary school, I'm like, okay, elementary school, you wasn't the most, engaged in class. You don't have to bring that to high school. You know what I'm saying? Or in elementary school, you fought a lot. This don't have to be a space where you're known as someone who's a fighter. You know what I mean? And so I just think it's important for us to know that things happen to us, but they don't have to define us, which I love. Let's go to our next one. The Ultimate Teenager's Guide to Success. I'm excited to hear about what led to this writing.
Wow. Actually, that came out of nowhere. They always said if you didn't see that book on the shelf, write it, and that's what I chose to do. This book talks about creating a vision for your life, what school to go to, how to invest in yourself and your community, assets versus liability. How do you know the school is right for you? Man, it just really. I wrote the book for the younger me. I wrote the book really for my son, so he can have a direction if I'm not here. This book is so powerful because when I graduated out of high school, I really didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. I just went with what was familiar. What was familiar is going to daily college because I went to Forest City to hang out. Right. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to daily college. Okay, after you graduate from there, what do you do then? I don't know. Let me go to Chicago State. I'm doing what I'm exposed to. So exposure is real huge, just like becoming a police. I was exposed to the police, harassing me, I should say. And look who I became. You can only see what you can only be what you can see.
Awesome. So we got a few questions coming in, which I love. So Tim Flowers, who was on one of my panels a couple of weeks ago. What's up, Tim? He said what he would love for his players. He's actually an assistant basketball coach at Simeon High School. He said, I would love for my players to read his book. What's the name again?
The Ultimate Teenager's Guide to Success.
Yep. So here it goes. Again, the Ultimate Teenager's Guide to Success. And so we will make sure that before we are done with this interview, we put in like where you can get all the information and continue, because I believe that to be so true. I think a lot of times it's important for us to give our teens not only an opportunity to be able to get some direction, but like you said, it's because I'm in high school just still trying to figure it out, and you're only going to do what you're exposed to. So Tim said, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and the third part about that book too is it gives you the steps as you're going through life. You know what I mean? The challenges they will be facing, like life lessons. Why to stay healthy. It goes into just relationship. Even how to interact with a police officer is in there. Like it's so deep, and it gets so fine-tuned into how you should be as a person. A good citizen.
I love it. So I have us streaming on multiple platforms, and so we have on our other Facebook platform. One of the questions is just like, are these books just for children, teenager, or adult books as well? Would this be applicable to all ages, or what grade would you say? The ones we talked about thus far, because I know you have the children's book, but when we talk about The Shadows of the Past and also The Ultimate Teenager's Guide to Success, is it just for teenagers, or could it be something that young adults could chime in as well?
So Shadows of the Past is for emerging adults, obviously 18 and older, or 18 to 20, I believe 28 or something. The Ultimate Teenager's Guide, it's really for teenagers, but it's for anyone. And the reason I put teenagers on there because if they can learn this information at a young age, imagine what kind of adult they will be. Any person can learn from that. I talked to an adult the other day, and they didn't even know what assets was versus liability. So they learn from that. So any person can learn from that book, not just teenagers.
Yeah, so I love the idea of Tim saying that he would want his players to use this book. I think this would be I know in my school we do after school enrichment, and we've been trying to do like a mentor group for boys, a mentor group for girls, like even having like a book study. I think this would be a really, really dope concept. And so moving on to the third book, let's talk a little bit about this. So this is a little bit of a shift from our other two. So how do we land here?
So Meet Look, it teaches children English and Spanish, or Spanish to English. And that book is important because learning a second language it'll make you that cut above. If someone is exposed at a younger age of another language, they'll probably be more in tune to continue learning, and that will make them more tuned into landing a better job or being a better communicator or problem solver.
Yeah. And what, is it any inspiration? What was the inspiration behind writing this book?
So that's my family. That's how me and my wife interact with my son. My wife speaks Spanish fluently, and I speak Spanish as well, and we speak to him in both languages.
Awesome. So I would love, before we move on to the next question, to kind of unpack something you said earlier. So when you listed off, and I don't know if you all saw when I made the flyer for Carmichael, I'm like, he's an author, he's a mentor, and then he just had all these lists of things that I'm like, he's just a Renaissance man. Okay, so we just gonna say that, right? Being able to be a community activist, an author, all these different things. But I think it's important, and I don't want us to gloss over some important things that you said about your past. Because I think a lot of times we can hear you and we can see you, and we're like, this just had to be how he was, right? Like, this just has to be his upbringing and how he was able to move forward. Because at the end of the day, how do you get to this point? And like you just shared, in high school, you had a 1.7 GPA, right? And how did you get to this point? And I mean, was college really an option? And I think it's just important for people to hear that story as we dive a little deeper to like advice for kids and for parents. Like, what was it was it like an inner drive? Do you feel like it was, trying to rise above what you saw? Like, what was it that switched? Like, 1.7 high school, like right. High school just didn't matter. Like, what made stuff start to click and matter for you?
It kind of hit home once I believe I was a junior, and I had that 1.7. They like, you're about to graduate. What do you do next? Everybody put in their yearbook, what school they're going to, and it sounded cool. I'm going to Roosevelt University. Like, wow, that sounds cool, but it's kind of like, dude, what is Roosevelt University about? Like, you didn't want to go into business, but that's a business school. It's kind of like, I didn't know. So people used to tell me, like, if you want to go to college, you need to up your GPA. And I'm like, wow, what is a GPA? Now I get it. Wow, okay, let me up. And I just went all in, just study. And I ended up graduating with like a 3.4 or something like that. But it wasn't a 1.7. But just the drive to keep going, the resilient, I knew where I wanted to go, but just didn't know how to get there. And of course, if you don't have that direction, anywhere can take you, anything can take you there.
Yeah.
So just having that inner drive to keep going and not give up.
Yeah. I want to, before we go to the next one, kind of shout out some people. So Deborah Christian said, we are so proud of Carmichael. Thanks for sharing. Also, we have Doris Ham. We are proud of you. Love Auntie Diane and family. So you got some family tuning in, which is cool. Yeah. I think that you hit perfectly to our next question. What advice do you have for youth and adults? And so the repeated thing is just like direction, right? Direction. I think just providing direction, especially during this time. I mean, so many things happen in our world, and just in general, just trying to figure out our next steps. What would be your advice to the youth that's watching, or may watch this later, or to adults who are watching later? What kind of advice would you have that they need to be considering right now?
Okay. My first advice would be for the youth. I would say follow your dreams and no one else's, and never give up. And the reason I said follow your dreams, it may seem, just in general, but I follow someone else's dream, and actually I'm living their dream. I always wanted that validation from my father. He knew a lot of police officers. He always validated them, but he never validated me. So I'm like, oh, maybe if I become a police officer, I get that validation from him. So I became a police and never realized why I'm living his dream and not my own. So now as a police officer, I'm living someone else's dream while following my own. So following your dreams is really important.
Yes. What are you feeling like even saying that, I think is huge. But what was your dreams, or what's currently your dreams? Do you feel like you, even though it started off being a dream of trying to get validation, has it become something that, I actually am passionate about this, and maybe it opened doors to the other things that you started to pursue?
Yes. So now I'm working kind of through it because I wanted to be a counselor in the school. I always loved working around young people because to be in that dark moment I was in and to be able to escape that, that's so powerful right there. So yes, as a Chicago police, I'm still an advocate for the youth. Going out, doing the best I can by talking to the community, talking to the young people, volunteer at different schools, grammar schools, high schools, wherever I get opportunity to have a conversation with them, I'm there.
Love it. So we have a few more comments coming in, and some people on Facebook. So again, if you're chiming in, if you have a particular question or comment that you want to have stated during this discussion, please put in the comments and I will display them. We have maybe like 2 or 3 more that I have prepared, but if any questions you have for Carmichael or anything about his writings, please pose them and I will display them. You got some more shout outs. You the man today, Carmichael. You got I'm so proud of you, my grandson. Love you. And just even online, just to hear, they said they're so happy to hear this discussion taking place because there are so many young people who don't have a proper exposure. I hear mentorship, and that's what's needed in our community. And I agree with that. I think that even what you just said, looking for that validation from your father, looking for just, okay, where is my footing in all this? Ultimately, the youth and our youth just needs to know someone is believing in them, right?
Yeah.
And I think about even from my own son, I'm always asking him, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, what is it that you like to do? And I think we all go back to wanting to please our parents, right? Whether or not we have healthy relationships with our parents or not, we also want to get that thumb of approval. But you hit it right on the money. I think it's important for our kids to have an opportunity to kind of reflect on what is it that they want to do, right?
Exactly.
Like, what is it that you're passionate about? And let's try to support them in that. You know what I mean? I think nothing is more discouraging. And, and again, like I said, working with you, of being like, man, I really want to do this, but someone's like, that ain't a real job. Well, that's not something you should do. Like, ultimately, if we can gather around them and support them, they'll be able to maybe in that path find another thing that can support them financially. But ultimately, whatever we do, we want to be passionate about it. I think too many of us can attest, people probably been watching, like, we got a job just for the check, and that's just not enough. Eventually, it has to have purpose. It has to be aligned with who it is I'm supposed to be. So I would love to hear what you speak to that. Yeah,
I'm so passionate about my purpose. Before I became a Chicago police, I was a police in the suburb making $8 an hour part-time. So I was still out here in the community doing what I'm doing now for $8 an hour, and I would do it for free. You know what I mean? It's not about the money to me. It's more about the mission.
I love it. So what is next in your career? So we got 3 books, right? We got mentorship programs. Like, if you could see the pie in the sky for all of this, like, what would be that pie in the sky for you?
Obviously, continue being an advocate for our youth, and continue promising writing career. And I didn't give you the advice for the adults either.
Yeah, come on, let's talk to the adults. Let's go back. Yeah.
It's almost on the same line of the youth. Just never stop dreaming. Always chase your future. You got to have something in front of you. A lot of people go to sleep and they always say, yeah, I go to sleep and I have a dream. But sometimes we need to go to sleep with a dream so we can wake up with a purpose.
Yeah.
We got to know what's our next level. So we got to always keep the future us in front of us. So we always have something to chase.
I love it. And I love the idea of this yes, it's important for us to help our children to discover their dreams, but also the adults to not stop dreaming.
Yes.
I'm always inspired when I see, regardless of the age, someone went back and if their dream was to graduate college, they did that, or to start their business, or, I was in corporate America and then I opened up this daycare because I love kids. You know what I mean? Like, whatever it is that you really feel aligned, just to know that we are not ever to stop dreaming. So I love that. I think the alignment, like I said, with the next question, like, what's next? Like, what is your ultimate goal when it comes? I know you said to continue writing. Would you like to have partnerships across the city? I mean, even just hearing Tim, I'm excited. Like maybe have like a whole basketball team studying your writings. You know what I mean? I just think that this is
Absolutely.
just amazing.
Absolutely.
Like what's big picture for you with this?
Probably partnership with more youth-based organizations, schools, grammar schools, starting book clubs with schools so I can come out and talk to them at the after-school program. Hopefully, I would love to make this book a curriculum. Uh, so sometime I can possibly come through there and just share my story, and we can walk through each and every subject.
Awesome. So with the book, I like to talk a little bit about that because with Versions of Books, I do have a book club and we're starting one for high school. So I'm really excited to connect with you and just learn more about your work. And I know we talked a little bit about the topics of, assets and liabilities, right? Being able to, what are some key topics, but I would love to dive a little bit more. So for those who maybe tune in a little later, what are maybe two more topics in this book that like, hey, you need to grab this for your team because these are conversations and learning tools that they need to be aware of. So what would be like maybe two more topics that are in the book that, hey, these are great for our youth to consider?
Okay. How do you know the school is right for you? And how to apply for scholarships and grants, and where to apply for scholarships and grants. How to live debt free, how to grow wealth at a young age. How to, I don't know if I told you before, how to invest in yourself and your community. I said that before, but how to pay for college for free, by buying a piece of property and having that property pay for you to go to school. And after you're done with paying for school, you can still have a property.
I love it.
On that, and you build wealth.
So were these lessons that you were taught, lessons you learned on your own, or kind of like a combination of the two?
I'm an avid reader. I learned this on my own. I read about 10 pages a day. I never stop learning. I never stop reading. I learned this over time. So I decided I couldn't hoard all of this information, so why not put it in the book and help others that's coming behind me?
Love it. I love it. I love it. We got a few more people shouting you out. So we're so proud of you, Carmichael from Brett. Said Carmichael is keep growing strong. You make me proud, Uncle James. This is so, what's up, family? I feel like I'm a part of the family reunion. What's going on? What would you say is, and I always like to end with this because I believe that it's important that yes, we're listening and we're hearing all this great stuff. And I again, you all encourage you, if you have not grabbed any of his writings or his books, to get them. We're going to put it in the comments where you can grab it. Tim, I'm definitely going to connect you and him because I think that would be dope to see a team aligned in the things that they're learning and just the impact that can make across the schools. But again, if you have not gotten his writings, this is the purpose of this platform. So as people are learning, they're learning about new people. But what would you say is a call to action? I personally, just from you, just got convicted of like, if I'm learning something, why hoard that information, right? So it's a certain level of responsibility, right? If I have some information to give it to others. And so that in itself, I would say would be a call to action for myself. Like be considering what are some things that maybe, yes, this is a platform I'm using, but exploring more. What are ways I can get more knowledge out to the community? What would be maybe a call to action that you would have for those who are currently listening?
Learn something new. Never stop learning. When you stop learning, you stop growing. Like I said, I read 10 pages a day. Maybe read something that's aligned to your dreams and goals. Write down your goals. Write down your weekly goals. I know a lot of people wait till January 1st to say, you know what, I'm gonna do this for the new year. And it's kind of like, you have a new day tomorrow.
Exactly.
What you waiting for? And get an accountability partner. And having an accountability partner is so important because you need someone to hold you to the fire. You said you was going to do this. Why not? Why didn't you do this? Mm-hmm. We always, it's only 7 days a week, but we make the 8th day someday. Like, I'm going to do it someday. I'm going to do it someday. Now you got to do it now. You got to do it. You know, it's people out here counting on you. It's kind of like if you don't follow your dreams, who will not benefit from it? But if you do follow your dreams, who will benefit from it?
I love it. I love it. So, how can people stay in contact with you? How can we learn more about your work? Because again, and I just want to say this, I'm excited about our connection. You are truly a brilliant, brilliant person. I mean, just preparing for this interview, looking at your books and looking at your writings, and I remember seeing your picture. I'm like, he looks good. Mustang must be destined. But again, I just think it's just important that I just love seeing people follow their dreams. And so, how can people stay in contact with you? Because you are definitely on the up and up, and just learn more about your writings.
Absolutely. My website is carmichaellewis.com, and that's CarmichaelLewis.com. I'm also on Instagram under c.lewis_author.
Awesome. And I will make sure you all that before this live ends, well, when it ends, to put all of that information as far as the website, his Instagram, so you can follow him. You have just some more people that's truly rallying around you. They say, good job, bro. And then also, congratulations, Carmichael. I'm so proud of you. Continue to let the Lord use you. And so, again, even in this conversation, there were just so many. If you didn't get the beginning of this interview, go back to the beginning. Carmichael has definitely hit on so many things. I think the main thing is just like being able to expose ourselves to new surroundings and new opportunities. Again, we're only going to achieve or go after what we know, right? So like if all I know is these four corners of this neighborhood, then that's all I'm going to aspire to stay in. But if we allow our kids to see more, goal setting, never stop dreaming, right? Making sure that we are in a place where we are empowering each other to be our best selves, and accountability, because we can have all these goals written down. Like you said, many of us, I need us to think about it. Monday is June 1st. Like the half of the year has been gone already, right? And so when we think about where we were January 1st to June 1st, have you even achieved 3 of the things you wanted to do this year? And I mean, considering all the areas of your life, financially, physically, emotionally, spiritually, all these different areas in our lives to consider. And if not, think about how quickly that time went by, and now we have another 6 months. And so getting that accountability partner so those goals can really become reality, and making sure you even have goals that you're striving towards.
Yeah, it's important because I know a lot of people like, oh, I'm in this pandemic, I'm just sitting at home, just doing whatever. But I actually wrote 4 more books during this pandemic. You know what I mean?
Oh
so
my gosh.
it's giving me an opportunity to kind of just grow, so I'm just actually taking this opportunity just to grow, even though I'm going to work, but I go to my job, and I come home to work. It's a different work.
Say that one more time. You said you go to your.
I go to my job, which is my income, being a Chicago police officer. But when I come home, I start working, which is my purpose for life. To giving back to others. To really change lives through writing.
I love it. I love it. And so you said you wrote 4 more books?
Yes, probably about 4. Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So let's unpack that before we end. The reason I say that is because I'm actually personally trying to write a book. Not trying. I am writing a book with my son, because it's been on my heart for a while to do this. So let's talk about this process of being an author. So you had a story to tell, you had information you didn't want to hoard, so you wanted to make sure you were able to put it into writing. What is like your process for writing? Do you have like a set time? Like I know you say you come home to work. So what does that look like? Do you have like, hey, my journal, I get to it? Like what's kind of like your system and making sure you're productive when it comes to producing your words?
I'd probably do like a deep hour when I come home. So a deep hour look like, I kind of just zone out, come into my office, take out my journal, and just go for it. So before I write every book, I come up with that title first and just try to brainstorm what that looked like and how did it look on the shelf, and would a person like myself or anyone else, just by the title, pick up that book.
Mm.
And then I just start writing, just put down everything that comes to mind when I think about that title. And after that, I just kind of edit. I do everything myself. So self-publishing, it's pretty tedious, but I try not to give myself a timeline because you can't cram information.
Yeah.
You're trying to get to someone to change their life, So just take your time with it. Take your time with it. Always keep a journal with you. Write things down. I have notebooks everywhere. I probably like 6 notebooks just full of information.
Really?
Yeah. So in case my son ever run past it, he know what type of person I am.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So that in itself, you all, we've been quarantined for 2.5 months, and Carmichael got 4 books. I got to get myself together.
You got to change your mentality, man. To change your reality, you got to change your mentality.
I love it.
Just think about where you're trying to go and then work backwards. You're trying to write a book. How are you going to do that? Each week, take bits and pieces and put together. At the end, you'll have it. We all write books each and every day. Every day, we turn into chapters. We reading somebody else's book, but we don't know how to write our own. We writing a book every day of our life. I'm pretty sure your story could change someone's life too. So hop on board.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Carmichael. Before we end, Lanye, who also went to Morgan Park, said, "Hey guys, congrats, Carmichael. I think it's just so dope. I pray you all that you watched this, you were inspired, you learned about Carmichael. I think reading his books, like, again, I'm just going to highlight them here. Go to the site when I put them on in the chat so you can support him and support his work. Again, it really takes a village, you all, for us to not only get the message out, but also support someone who is really contributing to our community. So the book, upside down, Shadows of the Past. We also spoke about The Ultimate Teenager's Guide to Success. And then last but not least, his children's book. Again, I just pray that we can continue to support this great work. And I look forward to seeing the next time you come with your next 4 books, where I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have one. I'm going to at least have one to show as well. So it's going to be great. So again, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. Again, you see why it was entitled The Power of Words. I truly believe that he's using his words, he's using his message to really make a difference. So thank you all for tuning in. See you next time.